Hey, sports fans, you know the sound, you know the time. It's time for the Unbiased podcast, episode 8 today, October 11th, 2022. I'm your host, as always, Mr. Unbiased, Connor Bennion. And we're going to jump right into it. I finally got my butt into gear, and I'm doing a morning podcast. I want to get your day started out right, so hopefully I might get this posted earlier than normal. And we're going to jump right into it because I'm going to try and pick things up and we're going to see how that works. Jumping right in, I wanted to start with the MLS and I wanted to make the correction that I had no idea what I was talking about with the MLS table in the way of it's actually the top 7 teams make the postseason in the MLS, and with a 3-1 win on Sunday, a very impressive 3-1 win, might I add, by the Real Salt Lake over the Portland Timbers on Sunday. They did clinch a playoff spot. They clinched the 7th seed. Had Minnesota or Nashville lost, their seed would have increased. But the Real Salt Lake are headed to the postseason. As they said on the broadcast, the last year's Cinderella punched their ticket on decision day of the MLS season. Last year was the final day of the MLS season, and they did the same thing this year. You know, it's fascinating because last year the Real Salt Lake won to get in very dramatically on decision day last year, and they ended up stunning the Seattle Sounders. I believe it was 1-0 in their first round playoff matchup, and then the second round they went to Sporting Kansas City and got a very late additional time goal, ended up winning 2-1. So we'll see what the Real Salt Lake do this year. They play at Austin FC on, I apologize, I was going to bring it up. I believe it's on Sunday. They play at Austin FC at 1 p.m. And the last time these two teams met, it was in Austin FC about a month ago, roughly. And I believe the final score was 2 or 3-0 in favor of Austin FC. So we'll see what happens for the Real Salt Lake. Again, they've got a mountain to climb. Being the 7th seed, they won't have any home playoff games. I mean, it's going to be a tough one for Real Salt Lake, but good to see them into the postseason. Moving to the MLB, you know what's crazy with the MLB was between, and I don't necessarily regret this, because I only do the podcast once a week. Between the last time we talked, we saw teams get eliminated. We saw the wild card round, all 3 games, if they were needed. Only one series went to 3 games in the wild card series. But for the first time, the wild card series was expanded to 3 games, and it was the Philadelphia Phillies and the St. Louis Cardinals. The Philadelphia Phillies won 2-0. They had a very dramatic comeback in the 9th inning in game 1 and ended up winning. I believe it was 6-2. And then game 2, they won. So the Philadelphia Phillies eliminated the St. Louis Cardinals and ended the career of the great Albert Pujols, one of, I believe it's 4 players to hit over 700 career home runs. So a major accomplishment and a major shout out, and a we will miss you for sure to Albert Pujols. And I believe Yadier Molina behind the plate, one of the greatest catchers of all time, said that this would be his final season as well, his farewell. So very dramatic 2-game series there. On the other side of the NLDS, the NL wildcard, the only series to go to 3 games, the New York Mets and the San Diego Padres. Padres took game 1, Mets took game 2, Padres took game 3 in dominating fashion. And if I remember correctly, the Mets are the only team in MLB history with 100 or more wins not to make the divisional series. So an unfortunate turn for the Mets, which, you know, really puts into play how important winning your division is, because they had the division lead. They ended up losing it to the Atlanta Braves. They had to play, so that forced the Mets in the wild card against a really talented Padres team, and now their season's over. On the AL side, 2 really entertaining series. The Cleveland Guardians played host, to the Tampa Bay Rays, and Cleveland won game 1. I believe it was 2-1. Just a a great postseason baseball game. And then in game 2, take away that extra runner that starts at second in extra innings, and you go the rounds, 15 innings. Cleveland with a walk-off home run, 1-0 to advance in the postseason and end the Tampa Bay Rays season. That is postseason baseball. Nothing but pure hysteria in Cleveland. And then the Seattle Mariners went to Toronto and won 2 games on the road in Toronto. Game 1 was close. I believe it was something like 2-1. And then game 2, the Toronto Blue Jays looked poised to send it to a 3rd game winner take all. They were up 8-1 at one point and ended up losing 10-9 in the regular 9 innings. So the Seattle Mariners punched their ticket into the ALDS. In regards to your divisional series that start today, the Philadelphia Phillies are at the Atlanta Braves at 11:07 our time, being Mountain Time. The Seattle Mariners are at the Houston Astros at 1:37 p.m. Mountain Time. The Cleveland Guardians and travel to the New York Yankees and play at 5:37 p.m. Mountain Time. And then the San Diego Padres are at the Los Angeles Dodgers at 7:37 p.m. Mountain Time. And you know what's fascinating again is, depending, because the division series is only 5 games, there's a possibility that, again, the next time that we meet, we'll have, possibly, you could have both of the championship series locked in. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. Again, you only have to win 3 games in the 5-game divisional series set. I don't think we'll have them all locked down, but I do think that it's possible that we'll have some. Again, not making game predictions, just making series predictions. I know this, I kind of regret doing this because you don't like to pick all of the higher seeds because typically there's an upset. But I like the Braves beating the Phillies in the series. I like the Astros beating the Mariners, but to me, that's going to be the most entertaining series. I really like the way Seattle's playing, and as a Yankee fan, I know the saying is, to be the best, you got to beat the best. But at the same time, if the Yankees, knock on wood, were to win the World Series, beating Cleveland, beating Seattle, who I think they have a better opportunity of beating, and then beating the Padres should they beat the Dodgers, and then they beat the Braves or the Phillies, or, the Phillies beat the Braves and then beat the Dodgers or the Padres. To me, I want the least path of resistance because it scares me the least. So, again, I get that doesn't really give you that credit of playing the most difficult schedule, but I still think a win is a win. A championship is a championship. But overall, I do think that Houston will beat Seattle in the series, but I think that's your most entertaining one. The Cleveland Guardians and the New York Yankees. I've got the Yankees winning this series. The Yankees have won their last 2 postseason matchups against the Cleveland Guardians, and I believe that the last time these 2 teams played, I think the Yankees, when I say last time, I mean in the regular season, I think the Yankees swept a 3-game set against the Guardians in Yankee Stadium. So I do like the Yankees to take this series. And then the San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers. I like the Dodgers. And again, it'll be quite a clash to see them, again, what I believe will be take on the Atlanta Braves. Playoff baseball is in full swing, and we're going to see some great matchups and great baseball on the postseason side. Again, it's October and the hunt for the World Series is on. That's going to be our coverage of the MLB. I'm not going to cover anything on the NBA other than the fact that we are almost a week away from tip-off in the NBA, so very exciting news there. Again, next week, obviously, I'll break down the Jazz home opener against the Denver Nuggets. As, again, the roster is finalized. You're really going to see everyone come into swing, and we're going to see we're going to see the NBA tip-off. If I remember correctly, not that I'm going to break this down because I'm not going to lie, I know about this much about hockey, but today is opening face-off day of the NHL. The Tampa Bay Lightning are at the New York Rangers, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights are at the Los Angeles Kings. So the NHL coming in to the beginning of the season. October is where all the gears start grinding. We're going to march right along in our gears, and we're going to go to college football. And what a week of college football it was. It was, when I say by far my worst college week, luckily I broke even, but it just didn't really go my way. Both on teams winning that I was hoping to win, and also on my predictions. Just to give you, and by the way, I did want to make mention, I'm a paper guy. I have my iPad in front of me, but a lot of stuff I like to do on paper. So I apologize if you can hear it and it bothers you, or I look down and it bothers you. Just again, to talk about my record-wise, my overall record is 67-45. So again, 22 games. I'm kind of slightly increasing. This week, my overall was 12-10. Again, not the greatest week. My college record was 3-3. Last week, I was 20-6. So with a 3-3, sorry, my papers are sticking together. With a 3-3 college record, my overall NCAA record is 23-9. The 3 games I was correct on, or actually, I'll just break it down as I have it on my paper. The number 16 BYU Cougars were in Las Vegas. They took on the unranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Yes, I was there. And the Notre Dame Fighting Irish ended up winning this game 28-20. I had BYU winning. I mean, again, as a BYU fan, total gut check. I had to sneeze. I don't think I've sneezed before, so I think I've got it under control. Total gut check, but the atmosphere was unbelievable. I don't regret going. I did want to plug in right now while I've got the opportunity. I did start another podcast. If you look up on YouTube, it's called The Babbling Bennion. And that's where I really go into my biased view, and I just rant on the BYU Notre Dame game, because I did think it was unfortunate that BYU got the short end of the stick by playing on a neutral field, but it was definitely practically another Notre Dame home game. It was a game that I'm not going to sit here and say, well, BYU should have won, because Jaron Hall threw an interception on the first play of the game. Puka Nacua, unfortunately, couldn't come down with a very crucial 3rd and 7 later in the game. Again, BYU at one point, they led 6-3 at one point after a missed extra point, and then they were down 25-20 when they got the ball back off of a very exciting interception happened on the side of the field that my cousin Dal and I were sitting down on, because we were on the I think it was the south end zone. And so BYU had all of their opportunities. They ran the ball on 4th and 1 deep in Notre Dame territory, turned the ball over, and never had the ball back. So BYU had every opportunity to win the game, and they didn't. So props to Notre Dame. Again, I had BYU winning, and Notre Dame did win. A real gut check was the number 11 Utah Utes were at the number 18 UCLA Bruins in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. I had Utah winning. UCLA won that game 42-32. And the gut check of it was, to me, the game changer was Cam Rising on a 4th and I believe it was 1. Had a quarterback keeper. He had the first down. Utah was going to extend the drive, fumbled, and not only did UCLA recover, it turned into a pick 6. And again, Utah was never able to recover. Again, I had Utah winning that game. UCLA ended up winning 42-32. The Air Force Falcons were at the Utah State Aggies in Maverick Stadium in Logan. I had Air Force winning this game, and Utah State came to play. They ended up winning 34-27. Again, going back, this was their first game since playing BYU, and the team that played against BYU showed up and beat Air Force, so a huge congrats to them. That knots up Utah State's Mountain West record at 1-1. So again, they are in the thick of the race for the Mountain West Conference Championship. So congrats to them. And then continuing their impressive season, the Weber State Wildcats hosted Eastern Washington. I believe it was their homecoming game, and they were victorious 45-21. I did pick Weber State to win that game. And then outside of the state, I did pick the Tennessee Volunteers, who were number 8, to beat number 25 LSU, which they did in dominating fashion. Tennessee won that game 40-13. And then to round out the top 25 matchups, the number 17 TCU Horned Frogs were at the number 19 Kansas Jayhawks, and I picked TCU to win that game, and they did win 38-31 in a very entertaining game. Kansas had the ball late in TCU territory and ended up turning over the ball. So again, 3 games correct, 3 games incorrect. In regards to our top 25 upsets, we already talked about 2 of them. Utah, number 11 Utah at number 18 UCLA. Utah lost, and then number 16 BYU lost to unranked Notre Dame. The number 13 Kentucky Wildcats took another spill. They lost to unranked South Carolina not in South Carolina. They hosted South Carolina and lost 24-14. And then the number 21 Washington Huskies were at Arizona State, and they dropped that game 45-38. The Sun Devils with an impressive high-scoring win. So those were your upsets. That sets up this week's top 25 that I wanted to spit out really quickly. Make sure we got our standings, and then we'll get to our matchups and predictions. Number 1 is Georgia. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Alabama. Number 4, Clemson. Number 5, Michigan. Number 6, Tennessee. Number 7, USC. Number 8, Oklahoma State. Number 9, Mississippi. Number 10, Penn State. Number 11, UCLA. Number 12, Oregon. Number 13, TCU. Number 14, Wake Forest. Number 15, NC State. Number 16, Mississippi State. Number 17, Kansas State. Number 18, Syracuse. Number 19, Kansas. Number 20, Utah. Number 21, Cincinnati. Number 22, Kentucky. Number 13, Texas. Number 24, Illinois. And number 25, James Madison, the FCS team last year that became FBS this year, is already in the top 25. Major congrats to them. So that's your top 25. Breaking down this week's games. Make sure I get my current paper. Sorry, I'm trying to remember what side of paper I need to be on. For our in-state matchups, another dogfight. While I've got their flag up, the number 20 Utah Utes play host to the number 7 USC Trojans. And I picked Utah to win last week. Unfortunately, it didn't go their way. They're playing in Salt Lake. Rice Eccles is going to be electric on Saturday night. They host the number 7 USC Trojans. And while I've got their flag up, I've got to pick against the Utah Utes. I only pick against them because I think Lincoln Riley and his transfer Caleb Williams that came from Oklahoma, I just like them to find a way to win. This is going to be an electric atmosphere. It's going to be a dogfight. I'm not taking USC by much, but I am going to take them. But Utah can have a staple of a win. They can get right back into the Pac-12 chase. But I've got USC winning. I think if USC wins, it almost all but ends Utah's march for a Pac-12 championship. But I do say go Utes. But I just think after traveling to UCLA, having a really physical, really demanding game not go their way, it's going to be hard for me to pick Utah over USC in a top 10 opponent. So I'm going to pick USC over Utah, but I am going to go root for the Utes, but I pick-wise have to pick USC. Unranked BYU, they dropped out of the rankings. They host Arkansas. And I mean, kind of the same thing. BYU had a very mentally and physically exhausting and draining game against Notre Dame. On the homecoming turf, I'm going to pick BYU over Arkansas. And I know that that just comes across as bias, that I don't like to pick against BYU. Again, I picked against them against Baylor, and I was wrong. I picked against them against Oregon. I was correct. So I'm 1-1 in picking against them. And I'm not going to pick against them here. I just think that they have a real opportunity to really right the ship and get back to their winning ways. I do think they're going to find some way to beat Arkansas. Gunnar Romney, who left the Notre Dame game, is expected to play. I just think on their home soil, I think they're going to find a way to beat Arkansas personally. So I've got BYU beating Arkansas. Utah State is at Colorado State. I like this Utah State team to start making their turnaround. And this is a great, and again, I should say this is a great game because they just beat Air Force, so you could say that's their turnaround. I do like them beating Colorado State. I've got Utah State on the road beating Colorado State. And then I've got Weber State continuing their undefeated season. They're playing at Portland State, and I've got Weber State beating Portland State. Those are my in-state games. There are 5 top 25 clashes in the outside of the Utah USC game, so 6 altogether. And there's some doozies. I'm going to do something very, very dangerous. The number 3 Alabama Crimson Tide are at the number 6 Tennessee Volunteers. And regardless of whether Bryce Young plays, because I haven't looked at the injury report, whether Bryce Young plays on Saturday or not, I'm taking the Alabama Crimson Tide. I felt that that defense really showed up to play. They were all over the Texas A&M quarterback all day long on Saturday. I mean, blitz after blitz, hit after hit. 4 turnovers, I believe it was, from Alabama. A very, very uncommon turn of events for a Nick Saban coach team. So I like Alabama with or without Bryce Young to force turnovers, force defensive pressure, run the ball effectively like they did. And again, with or without Bryce Young, I'm going to take the Alabama Crimson Tide. Without Bryce Young, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a dogfight. Without Bryce Young, I'm less confident, but I'm going to pick Alabama. I think they find a way to win with or without Bryce Young at quarterback. The number 5 Michigan Wolverines. Sorry. First yawn. It's no surprise considering that I'm doing my early show for the first time ever. The number 5 Michigan Wolverines play host to the number 10 Penn State Nittany Lions. Like the MLB, by the way, all of my top 25 matchups outside of the Utah USC game, I'm going to pick the higher seed, and that's a dangerous thing to do because, again, upsets are almost bound to happen. But just these matchups, I like the number 5 Michigan Wolverines over the number 10 Penn State Nittany Lions personally. The number 8 Oklahoma State Cowboys are at number 13 TCU. I really like this Oklahoma State team. I've got them winning over number 13 TCU, even though it's in Fort Worth. And this Oklahoma State team, I think they're poised to, again, really make a deep, dark horse run at the college football playoff. Again, right now, for me, it's too early to tell, but I think this is another huge step. I'm going to pick Oklahoma State to win this game and really get a stranglehold on the Big 12. So I've got Oklahoma State winning. Number 15, North Carolina State is at number 18, Syracuse. The reason I'm picking North Carolina State is just because I don't know enough and I don't trust this Syracuse team enough to win this big prime marquee matchup. I've got NC State winning this game over Syracuse. And then in the SEC, number 16 Mississippi State is at number 22 Kentucky. You know, another brutal slide for Kentucky. I've got Mississippi State winning this game. I like the way they've been playing recently. And I do like Mississippi State beating Kentucky. Again, that's number 16 Mississippi State over number 22 Kentucky. That rounds out our college football world. And again, this week for college football is going to be fascinating for me record-wise in the way of there are 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games that I covered. And, you know, outside of Weber State, I'm not super confident in any of the picks because, again, there are some tough games for the three Utah teams, and then again the 5 top 25 ranking matchups are some absolute dogfights. So we'll see how it goes. Again, if it goes my way, I could really get a boost on my college record again. Again, it's by far my best. I have a 23-9 record in the NCAA, which transitions us and moves us to my NFL segment, and my NFL record is 44-36. I went 9-7 this week. So again, just slowly but surely making my way up, just adding a couple games. And I'd really like to see where I just have a really super good week and get a really good cushion. This week in the NFL, as per usual, talk about crazy weeks. It's just what happens. It's just typical. Reviewing the NFL. Thursday Night Football, the Colts were at the Broncos. And yes, I suffered through that game like you did. I picked Denver to win. 12-9, they lose in overtime. Not a touchdown scored, including a 4th and 1. In 12-9, it's in overtime. 4th and 1 at the Indianapolis 5. Broncos go for the touchdown. They didn't even go for the first down. They went for the touchdown and lost the game. And that's all I'm going to touch on right now because my Questioning Connor segment has a question about the Broncos. So I'm going to leave that for now. I was wrong there. The London game, Giants and not at, but the Giants and Packers in London, everybody picked the Packers, right? How about those G-men? The Giants stunned the Packers 27-22. I was incorrect about that game. The Bears were at the Vikings. I picked Minnesota and I was correct there. The Vikings won that game 29-22. A game and team that I'm getting so tired of predicting for. The Detroit Lions were at the New England Patriots. It was Bailey Zappi or Zapp again. I apologize. I still don't have his name down. The Lions were at the Patriots. I thought that the Lions had a really good chance. I really did. They have the number 1 scoring offense in the league. I believe the Patriots had the worst scoring defense in the league, or maybe actually it may be that the Lions own both of those. They own the highest scoring offense, but the highest scoring defense. My point is, between not having Mac Jones or Brian Hoyer, a rookie making his start, and the way that Detroit's been able to play, I expected them to beat New England. Why? I don't know. Apparently, I don't know anything about football. 29-0. Not only did they lose, but they got shut out. The top scoring offense gets shut out 29-0. Needless to say, I was wrong on that game. The Pittsburgh Steelers, boy, did they get walloped to the Buffalo Bills, 38-3. I picked that game correctly. The Chargers at Browns. Again, a plug into my other podcast, the Babbling Bennion. I am so tired of analytics. The Los Angeles Chargers gift wrapped a loss to the Cleveland Browns, which is funny because I picked the Chargers, so the outcome went my way, but the Los Angeles Chargers beat the Cleveland Browns 38-28 in Cleveland, but with under a minute left at their own 47, instead of punting the ball, the Los Angeles Chargers, whose defense is supposed to be their highlight point, by the way, they went and picked up Khalil Mack in the offseason. It's supposed to be their highlight. Their defense wasn't trusted. 4th and I believe was 1 at their own 47 with under a minute, and the Chargers didn't get it. They gave the ball to Cleveland with under a minute in plus territory, and luckily for the Chargers and luckily for Brandon Staley, the analytic praising head coach, they got lucky and Cleveland's game-winning field goal attempt was no good. And it wasn't like It wasn't like a 60-yard. I don't even remember the distance, but it was a makeable kick. It was almost good. Almost only counts in horseshoes, as we know. But that game just bothered me. Again, I rant about it on my Babbling Bennion podcast because I'm so tired of the analytics, which we'll talk about more in a game that I think you know is coming. So again, it's funny. I was correct on the pick, but I almost would have rather have been wrong to prove how dumb analytics are. I'm so tired of analytics. The Seahawks were at the Saints. I picked the Seahawks to win this game on the road. The Saints, due to 4 touchdowns by the Swiss Army knife, Taysom Hill, won that game 39-32. I was incorrect there. The next game that, again, just proves anybody can win any game at any time. Raise your hand if you had the Miami Dolphins losing to the New York Jets. And raise both hands if you had them losing 40-17. Obviously, this isn't my honest opinion, but my funny, humorous opinion is Jets are 2-0 under Zach Wilson. Can't go against my boy. Can't go against the BYU product. I get that Tua was out. My rather biased opinion. Well, sure. My rather biased opinion. A lot of people told me that Tyreek Hill was the difference. I'm pretty sure Tyreek Hill played Sunday. Dolphins lost 40-17. Does Tua make up 23 points? Maybe he does. But the Dolphins just got walloped by the Jets. To me, that's kind of an alarming sign. Anyway, moving forward, the Atlanta Falcons were at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers won that game 21-15, and I did predict that game correctly. We're not going to talk about it much. Simply put, roughing the passer. There's a game that happened more recently than Tampa that we'll talk about, the roughing the passer. So that's all I'm going to touch on there. I get you got to protect the quarterback. I really do. But obviously there's a time when you got to realize that the game of football is being played. So that's all I'm going to touch there. The Titans were at the Commanders. It was wildly entertaining. It came down to a 4th and goal stop, which I believe was an interception by the Titans, but they were victorious 21-17. I did predict that game correctly. The Texans at the Jaguars. What am I supposed to do with Jacksonville? I picked Jacksonville to win this game, and not only did they not win, they lost 13-6. So congratulations if you at home picked Houston. I didn't. And Houston was victorious, 13-6. I was wrong on that game. The 49ers were at the Panthers. The 49ers really put down a beatdown. They kind of drove that final nail in Matt Rule's coffin. Matt Rule, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, was fired Monday after a 49ers 37-15 victory. I picked the 49ers correctly there. The Dallas Cowboys were at the Los Angeles Rams. I had the Rams winning this game, and the Cowboys won in rather impressive fashion, 22-10. Again, I was incorrect there. But talk about a game. Talk about the pressure being added on. Do the Cowboys have their man in Cooper Rush? Like I answered Trevor Darty's question last week, I'm going with Dak Prescott moving forward if he finds a way to take the pay cut and help the Cowboys win. Because it was brought up, should the Cowboys lose, which you're bound to do, you got to look at the Cowboys and say Cooper Rush didn't lose, and they played some pretty good teams. This Sunday night, it's the undefeated Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, so we'll see if it's Cooper Rush. We'll see if it's Dak Prescott. We'll see what the feel is after that game. We'll talk about that game later, of course. But again, I was wrong on that game. The Eagles were at the Cardinals. I picked the Eagles. They remained the only undefeated team. They won 20-17. It was without peace. The game went down to the wire. Just a quick breakdown. It was brought up on the broadcast if you watched the game. Kyler Murray made one of the most boneheaded plays. I'm sorry. Like, I get in the moment, it's hard. But in the moment, well, not only in the moment, but you're an NFL football player. I'm not. Like, you got to make the plays. You got to know what's happening. And I say that because, as they made mention on the broadcast, Kyler Murray, the Cardinals didn't have any timeouts. Kyler Murray, on a third down, he was scrambling. As far as I could tell, he could have got a first down on the third down scramble. But on the second down scramble. But on second down, he scrambled the ball. He gave himself up and slid feet first, a yard short of the first down marker, which, with no timeouts, forced them to spike the ball on third down. And it made it fourth down, so they had to kick the ball. If you would have got the first down, you could have spiked the ball on second down and still, with like 20 seconds left, kept going for the end zone. But instead, gave himself up short of the first down, spiked the ball on 3rd and 1, made it 4th and 1, had to kick the field goal. They didn't have Matt Prater. Emergency kickers in that type of pressure miss quite often, and the Cardinals kicker, who I believe was Matt Amendola, who the Chiefs actually released, Matt Amendola missed wide right. I mean, he shanked it. The kick was no good. He missed the game winner. The game was over as soon as he missed it because they didn't have any timeouts. It was the turnover on downs. Eagles ended up winning this game, but boy, it was with a lot of stress. And it was just an ugly finish by the Arizona Cardinals. They dropped that game 20-17. A game where a kicker was money. Sunday Night Football, the Cincinnati Bengals were at the Baltimore Ravens. And Ravens win this game 19-17. Justin Tucker, man's got ice in his veins. Ice water in his veins. 19-17 on a game-winning Justin Tucker field goal. Ravens were victorious. I was correct there. And then Monday Night Football, won for the ages. Patrick Mahomes has only had 2 17-point comebacks in his career. Both times Travis Kelce had at least 3 touchdowns. Last night I had the Chiefs winning, and boy, they eked it out with a 30-29 victory. The highlight, roughing the passer. And because I don't want to take too long, because I'm doing pretty okay on my pace of keeping this video shorter than typical. Here's my thing about the roughing the passer call on Chris Jones that I'm gonna try and approach with the unbiased view. That is this. A, we talked about where is Chris Jones supposed to go, but B, here's my biggest argument, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, because I'm not going to put this, I guess I am changing. I had a different Connor's question, so maybe I'll make 2 again, but about the roughing the passer, here is my problem with the Chris Jones roughing the passer that changed the game. Again, what's crazy is obviously the game ended up going Kansas City's way, so they overcame what I would describe as the worst call in NFL history. Here's my thing about it. When Chris Jones forced the fumble, Derek Carr no longer is designated as a passer or a quarterback. He becomes a defensive player. So no more special treatment. No more protection on the quarterback. The NFL is all about protecting its quarterbacks. When Derek Carr fumbled the ball, he became no different than any Raider on the field. So you can't call a roughing the passer on a player who is just like every other defender. I cannot believe that Chris Jones, who literally forced a fumble and had possession before landing on Derek Carr, was called for roughing the passer. I think you, like myself, and like a lot of NFL players took to Twitter as soon as it happened and said, that's one of the worst calls we've ever seen in NFL history. What's the defense supposed to do? The NFL now has to answer to not only the Chiefs fan base, who have the most right to be upset. Falcons fan base has the right to be upset. There are plenty of fan bases who have the right to be upset. The NFL fan base is now screaming at the NFL, define a roughing the passer and make sure that we know we're playing football. So, again, I was right on the Chiefs game. It came with drama. Again, I thought the officiating on both sides was terrible. I felt that Las Vegas got hurt sometimes as well. So I got to give them the credit. Again, I'm a Chiefs fan, so obviously it's going to come across as biased. Hopefully I can trust on my Darty brother boys to take care of me, because they've been commenting and taking really good care of me. I just hope that everyone comments and says, no, Connor, that's just a biased view, because that roughing the passer, one of the, if not the worst call in NFL history. But again, crazy enough, the Chiefs still overcame it. Regarding just a quick touch, analytics. The analytics told Josh McDaniels to go for 2. And as far as I'm concerned, it lost him the game. So I say out the door with analytics. It's all about the football gut. Again, check out the Babbling Bennion podcast for that rant. It's not under Connor Bennion, by the way. My Babbling Bennion podcast is not under Connor Bennion. I don't know why YouTube does that. It's under the Babbling Bennion. So just go type in YouTube, the Babbling Bennion, and that'll get you to my podcast. That'll get you to my second podcast. I'll probably attach the link into the description here as well. To quickly burst through, because I want to keep, again, my goal is to try and keep these under an hour. My goal was under 50 minutes, but I'm probably not going to get there. Just going through, we finally hit our bye weeks, so my record will not be 16 games moving forward. This week, Detroit, Houston, Las Vegas, and Tennessee all get their bye weeks. Going right through Thursday Night Football, the Commanders are at the Bears. I like Chicago to pick up this victory. The 49ers are at the Falcons. I like the 49ers in this game. The Patriots are at the Browns. I like the Patriots to take this game. I just think if they were able to put up 29 points against Detroit and blank them, I like them winning this game against Cleveland. The Vikings are at the Dolphins. Without knowing the extent of Tua's condition, I've got the Vikings winning this game. The Bengals are at the Saints, and I like the Bengals in this game. The Jets are at the Packers. At my own peril, I'm picking the Packers. Who knows with Zach Wilson, apparently. But I'm going to pick the Packers. The Jaguars are at the Colts, and I'm picking Jacksonville. I think they're going to rebound from Houston. They've played the Colts well, obviously. I like the Jaguars in this game. The Ravens are at the Giants. I like the Ravens, but the Giants are obviously playing good football. But I'm going to pick the Ravens. The Buccaneers are at the Steelers. I've got the Buccaneers winning this game. The Bills are at the Chiefs. Again, to hopefully help my bias, like last year, the Bills won in the regular season in Arrowhead at GEHA Field. And I'm going to pick them again to beat the Chiefs here. That'll come into play more when the playoffs come around, because I think playoff Chiefs are a different animal. But for right now with the regular season, I'm going to pick the Bills, but a super entertaining game. But I'm going to pick the Bills. I hate to pick against the Chiefs, but I'm going to do it this week. I've got the Bills at the Chiefs winning that game. Bills winning at the Chiefs. The Panthers at the Rams. I like the Rams to recover and win that game. The Panthers, it's going to be hard to pick them with an interim head coach and the way that they're playing. I like the Rams. Cardinals are at the Seahawks. I like the Cardinals to rebound and win that NFC West matchup. The Cowboys are at the Eagles. Cooper Rush or Dak Prescott. I like the Eagles winning this game. I think it's going to be another dogfight, another close one, a super entertaining NFC East matchup. But I'm going to pick the Eagles to continue on their undefeated record. And then Monday Night Football, the Broncos are at the Chargers. And I'm going to pick the Chargers in this game. I like them to straighten out and pick up the win here on Monday Night Football at home against a Broncos team who, again, really is struggling. We'll talk more about them actually in a second because that's another question in Connor's segment question about the Broncos. So again, last week, by the way, in the NFL, I went 9-7. So my NFL record again continues to just climb just ever so slightly. That is all that we're going to review on the NFL. Again, week after week, it continues to be so entertaining. To our finalizing final segments, the question in Connor segment today. Again, I'm going to review the two quick questions. Question in Connor. First question from Trevor Darty. What are your thoughts on the new Pro Bowl, and do you think it will increase the ratings for Pro Bowl weekend? To answer your question, Trevor, I don't have too much knowledge on the new format. I do know, if I understand this correctly, that they aren't doing a tackle football game, which I think is an absolute joke, to kind of answer your question. I don't necessarily know if it will increase the ratings, mainly just because I haven't watched the Pro Bowl for years. I won't be surprised if it just kind of stays the same. My thoughts on it are, what's the point of playing? And also, what's the point of playing football? Like, I don't know. I just have a big problem of the whole thing of nobody who plays in the Super Bowl plays in the Pro Bowl, so why not play? I get it's all about injury. So, I mean, I'm kind of on the fence about it because I get that the flag football makes it so nobody gets injured in any way, shape, or form, which is what they're really fearing. Because I'm also a traditional person in the way of I like to see the Pro Bowl because it's history, but you almost wonder, should they just scrap it all together? So that's a tough, good question, Trevor. Again, my thoughts are, I guess I'm glad it's continuing on even if it means flag football, because watching them play tackle, was really just, it was just really annoying altogether for me. So hopefully that answered your question. Austin Darty's question was, is Russell Wilson the problem in Denver? And the question, very straightforward, is yes. Yes, Russell Wilson is the problem in Denver. And he's the problem because he's not Russell Wilson. I wish I was technologically advanced enough to cut over to a picture. On the game-winning play for the Colts, there was, I don't know who it was that was running a slant in the end zone. He didn't have a defender 4 or 5 yards from him, and Russell Wilson did not hit him. Russell Wilson blew it. Russell Wilson lost that game for the Broncos on Sunday night. They are a disaster. They are a dumpster fire. So yeah, I would say Russell Wilson is the problem because the Broncos put all of their eggs into one basket and said, oh, we can win with Russell Wilson, but the dude isn't even showing up to play football. Yes, Russell Wilson is the problem in Denver. What's crazy is he gives them the best chance to win, so he's almost not the problem, but he is the problem if he can't play football like someone who's supposed to win, who's someone who is supposed to, I don't know, throw the ball to an open receiver. Russell Wilson, you have to show up in Denver. So yes, I do believe he is the problem. Ozzy, I do believe he is the problem in Denver. So that will conclude our questioning Connor segment for this week. To conclude, Connor's question will be our final segment. My question was, who do you think, actually I had 2 questions, mainly because they were fueled by some really ridiculous targeting calls in college football in the BYU-Utah State game. So my first question was, what is a tackle? Trevor Darty hit the nail on the head. I honestly don't know what the exact definition of a tackle is. It changes week to week. it feels like. But I do want to say that I think it wouldn't be too bad of an idea to be allowed to challenge targeting calls. Just a thought. And I guess that's kind of the point of why they review them. But I'm like, I just... targeting call. There's a reason there's not targeting calls in the NFL, because they're ridiculously inconsistent, and you don't want to see a player get thrown out of a football game for an official's opinion and their interpretation. So that was the first answer from Trevor Darty. The next question was, who do you like winning the World Series? Trevor Darty's answer is one that is very common. He says, I like the Houston Astros to come away with the World Series this year. The pitching staff is phenomenal, led by Justin Verlander, and they have the experience and leadership in that clubhouse to come up clutch in the big moments, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's interesting because it's funny to me that there are 8 teams remaining in the postseason. And I think it's truly a 50-50. I think the Dodgers could win it. I think that the Braves could win it. I think that the Yankees could win it. And I think that the Astros can win it. So those are obviously the 4 teams that I think are going to win their series. And it'll just keep chugging and plugging. But the Astros definitely have a great opportunity. So I definitely agree with Trevor there. A great opportunity. I don't necessarily have my pick. I need to keep watching the World Series. Austin Darty gave an answer that I really enjoyed. I can see the World Series champions being between the Dodgers and the Yankees. I honestly see the Yankees coming out with the W. Knock on wood, that quest for 28 continues, and boy, I hope it's true, Ozzy. Boy, I hope it's true, but it is going to be a dogfight. This march to the World Series crown is going to be a fight for the ages. Looking forward to seeing how it moves forward. To conclude our episode today, Connor's question for this week. Again, I'm going to do a 2-parter just because you know what? I'll save one question for another week. It was about the college football playoff. So I'll save that for when the rankings come out. Connor's question, you got to know it's coming out there. What is the definition? And what would you like to see the NFL do with the roughing the passer? I've got to put it out there because of this reason. The Chiefs were totally ravaged from a sack strip fumble from Chris Jones. But again, the Atlanta Falcons were on the wrong side of a roughing the passer. So please answer Connor's question in the comment section below. What is the definition of roughing the passer? And what would you like to see the NFL do with the roughing the passer? To conclude today, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Austin Darty, who is on my show. He's starting a new YouTube channel. Ozzy, if you'll comment in and make sure everyone knows how to get to your new channel. I believe right now, if you go to Auszy, A-U-Z-Y, Games, G-A-M-E-S, again, Auszy Games, A-U-Z-Y, G-A-M-E-S, and subscribe. He's starting a new YouTube channel, and I believe he's streaming on Twitch. So Ozzy, please correct me if I'm wrong. Please comment below the information that fans need to know. If you like my show, again, Ozzy was on the show a few weeks ago. Comment, like, subscribe, go follow him. He is the man. He does giveaways with Funko Pops. He loves Funko Pops. He's been collecting for a while. Huge shout out to him. Nothing but love and praise to him. And just a gratitude to him for coming on my show. I apologize. That's why I keep pointing, because he was over there to my right when he did the show. You know, starting the new podcast for him. I give him all the support. And please, if you're following and subscribing to me, go follow and subscribe Ozzy. He is a legend. His videos are amazing. He puts a lot of emotion and a lot of time in bonding and connecting with his viewers. So please, again, for the last time, big shout out. Auszy Games, A-U-Z-Y-G-A-M-E-S. Go follow him and subscribe and like his content. Again, Ozzy, please comment if there's anything that my viewers need to know more about following you. And again, my plug, go visit the Babbling Bennion podcast. I started it yesterday. Again, it's my raw, biased, rant-fueled podcast. That's a little less formal and more about me screaming at the camera, which is funny because I feel like I've been screaming this whole time. So I will drop a description. I will drop a link to that episode, to that channel in my description, and vice versa. I'll also drop a link to this channel on my Babbling Bennion podcast. This has been the Unbiased podcast. I've been your host, Mr. Unbiased Connor Bennion. Today, today, October 11th, 2022. It was episode 8. Thank you so much for joining. It has been a great time being with you. Again, what a week as all of the sports are coming into swing. NHL starts today, like I said. The MLS continues, and the NBA next week. We'll start on Wednesday. Have a great week. Hopefully, you've been able to see this video a little earlier as I am going to get this posted. Hopefully, again, I'll always just start uploading it before 9:30, but it takes a while to upload. So hopefully, the day has gone well for you so far, and hope you have a great rest of the day. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. One last shout out, go visit Aussie Games, AUZYGAMES. Follow and subscribe to his podcast, and then check out my podcast, The Babbling Bennion, on YouTube, and of course, this podcast, Unbiased. I'm your host, Mr. Unbiased Connor Bennion. Have a great day. Thank you again.